When a health professional tells you that they are licensed or board certified, that they have a master's or a PhD, an MD or an LICSW, what does that mean to you? Have you ever been prescribed medication for an illness only to find that when you look that drug up online, it's supposed to treat something completely different? Have you ever wondered how we started treating ADHD in children with a drug that was FDA approved to treat high blood pressure in middle-aged men? How is it that after a year on your tried and true antidepressant, it loses its zing somehow, and your doctor has to up your dose or add another medication? Many of us don't ask these questions. We prefer to leave it to the professionals. But what if I told you that the so-called professionals don't necessarily know either? What if I told you that because illness is more profitable to the medical industrial complex than your wellness will ever be, your government and the corporations that own it will never be invested in your health? Join me down yet another string theory rabbit hole as I trace the threads of the Western medical model, the pharmaceutical industry, and how profits and corporate greed managed to kick the scientific method out of Western medicine a long time ago. Before I lose my American audience to the complete demise of the First Amendment, I want to pose some questions, offer some information, and encourage you to be a lot more skeptical of the so-called modern medical model that most Americans interact with every day. In this three-part series, we will ask three important questions. How do medications work? What does licensure and certification really mean? And if our society has moved from so-called mental illness being the exception to it being something that afflicts the majority of people, is it really the people who are sick? How many meds are you on right now? How many of these little orange bottles do you have in your bathroom? Two? Three? And what is the mechanism of action for each of these drugs? That is, how do they work in your body to make you well? What's the half-life? How long do they stay in your system after you've taken the pill? Many of us don't think too hard about this. Thanks to unconstrained capitalism and systemic oppression, most of the people who rely on these drugs don't have the time to think about or understand how they work. We're just grateful to be well enough to work, to make money, to live, and to have the health insurance we need to see the health professionals that give us the pills to quell the illnesses we're diagnosed with. Fibromyalgia, PCOS, depression, IBS, anxiety. Many of us don't think about it because we're not chemists and scientists. We feel like we don't know enough about the science behind the drugs that keep our country running. What if I told you that the drug companies and doctors didn't know either? That integrity, the scientific method, and the medical industrial complex all but parted ways completely a long time ago. The mechanism of action for any drug or medication on the market refers to how that substance acts on the systems and structures within your body to produce relief or a cure from whatever ailment you're experiencing. To put it simply, let's say a person is experiencing dehydration, which is a lack of sufficient water supply in the body and causes the systems that need water in order to function properly to slow down or malfunction. Symptoms of dehydration include dark urine, dizziness, tiredness, and dry mouth. The mechanism of action by which water or other appropriate fluids treat dehydration is by replenishing the body's supply of water, which allows the body's systems the necessary water to function, thus alleviating the dehydration symptoms. For some medications, the mechanism of action appears to be fairly straightforward. This is a cream I was prescribed when I started itching and getting bites after interacting with my ex's recently rescued cat. Tiny bugs crawling on my skin biting me, bad. Cream kills bugs, itching and bites stop. All done in theory. EpiPens are also fairly straightforward. While we may not know why some people have an anaphylactic reaction to foods, plants, or insect stings, it's a little hard for us to study that if they've been deleted from the earth in the process. Epinephrine counteracts the body's allergic reaction. The swelling in the person's throat goes away. They maintain their ability to breathe, and everyone is happy. These mechanisms of action are rooted squarely in the scientific method, which basically says develop a theory of how a given illness or ailment is caused. Develop a treatment based on that theory, test that treatment, and this will help you evaluate how right or wrong you were about the cause of the illness. So where then did the health industry start to go wrong? When and why did we stop caring about the cause of people's symptoms and the mechanism of action of the drugs and medicines that people were being prescribed? In my opinion, headaches, back pain, and depression are a good place to start. Jota, this video is so long and my ADHD can't handle it. Well, go take your guanfacine and lower your blood pressure so you can still a little longer, okay? If you look up the causes of a headache, you'll generally get a list of answers ranging from dehydration, muscle tension, teeth grinding, malnutrition, and hunger, to stress, caffeine or nicotine withdrawal, bright lights, perfumes and fragrances, and bad posture. Some of these causes are similar in nature, and others couldn't be more different. So why do more than 55 million Americans reach for Tylenol or Aleve to treat their headaches every year? If you look at back pain causes, you'll get exactly the same thing, a range of common causes from muscle strain to scoliosis to strains and slip discs, kidney and bladder infections. And again, you'll find that 28% of the US population is treating their back pain with NSAIDs like ibuprofen and stronger drugs like narcotics and opiates. These medications all treat inflammation or block pain signals, but none of them are designed to treat stress or hunger. None of them are going to realign your spine or improve your posture. So why are we all taking them? The answer is unfortunate and simple. Once the medical and pharmaceutical industries realized that they could make more money treating the symptoms of your ailments rather than the causes, they divorced their old friends' integrity and the scientific method and cozied up to their new besties, capitalism and individualism. Why individualism, you ask? Because it's much easier and cheaper to tell drivers, construction workers, and nurses that their low back pain is not the result of their profession's impact on their bodies, but a personal structural problem that they each individually happen to have developed. And then, when their chronic pain pushes them into a depression or disables them completely, the government can deny them disability coverage and send them to the doctor for SSRIs to go along with their opiates. What are SSRIs, you ask? They're popular medications that are supposed to treat depression by increasing the amount of serotonin available to your neuroreceptors, making you plucky and happy again. Even though recent research has proven that depression isn't caused by a lack of available serotonin in the brain. So the mechanism of action that is supposed to be the reason that these drugs work is completely false. So maybe that's why they keep having to up your dose and change your meds and add new meds. New meds, I might add, that don't have a scientifically proven mechanism of action either. But it doesn't matter, right? Because the goal in reality is just to make you well enough to go back to work. So how did we get here? Who are these licensed and credentialed professionals who decided that it was okay to take the science out of medicine and the care out of healthcare? Who are these people lowering the blood pressure of your 6-year-old with ADHD so that he can sit still in his overcrowded public school and prepare himself to join the exploited and medically gaslit masses as an adult? We'll talk about that in part 2.